Convo Fango. Today we are joined by writer, director Mickey Keating to talk about Off Season.
Thank
Yay!
you so much for having me. This is great.
You
I
look
love the shirt
fantastic, and your
as
shirt
well.
is incredible. Chef's kiss, 10 out of 10. Would recommend.
Who would have thought this was in no way coordinated?
At all. We
This is
didn't even call
amazing.
each other before this or anything. This is wild.
Right,
Great
right.
minds.
Yes,
Great
it's a
minds.
beautiful coincidence.
Oh man. So I'm so excited to have you here. I watched this a while ago, and I was very excited about it. But now I'm excited that it's going to be more like readily available and out in the world for people to see.
Yes, you and I both. It's been almost an entire year since we premiered at South by Southwest, so
God.
I'm very, very happy it's out in the world soon.
Yeah, South by Southwest has come back around again. That's
No,
literally
yeah,
how
I
long it's been.
can't even rest on those laurels anymore. This movie's already forgotten, so it's great timing for me.
You know what? It's like you got to appreciate the laurels for a year. You're like,
Right,
okay, it's the
right.
birthday of the laurels, and now you guys can watch it too.
Right. And I've got so many people who are like, I saw that it premiered. When is it coming out? And I'm like, I swear to God, it'll be here. Trust me. And that time is March 11th.
Hey, there we go. So tell us a little bit about what Off Season is about.
So Off Season is about a woman who gets summoned to an isolated island because her mother, who did not want to be buried there, her grave is vandalized. And as our lead character arrives, she soon realizes that she's about to encounter some very frightening situations. It's the scariest beach-based movie you'll see all year, and I'm very proud and excited about how everyone's performance and everything.
Amazing. I can attest to that, is for sure. It's the scariest beach movie I've seen in several years. So,
Thank you. I'll take that.
all right. You have an incredible cast on this. What was like the casting process like and getting this lineup? Because I was like, this is stacked.
Yeah, so I have wanted to work with Jocelyn Donahue for a long time, and so when I found out it was a possibility of even meeting with her on this, within a minute, I was like, "You are perfect for this film." Joe Swanberg, the director but star of many films like VHS and Your Next is in it. Richard Brake, who I immediately went crazy over when I saw his opening monologue in Rob Zombie's 31. I called him and I begged him to be in this. Melora Walters from Magnolia. Yeah, it's one of those situations where, Robert Altman says that directing is 90% casting. And this really was a situation where I just got to sit and watch these amazing people perform. So I was very, very lucky.
Amazing. I love that. And I just imagine you sitting on set and just being like, wow.
Yeah.
Like,
Sometimes I'd like forget to say cut because like Melora was delivering a spot on monologue and I'd be like, oh yeah, shit, a cut.
that's the coolest to me. I love to hear stories like that because I'm like, that to me just shows me like how much you fucking love this, right? Like you're just there and you're just like in awe. And I'm like, that's the fun stuff.
For sure, absolutely. I think that when you have a great cast, it really just you get to be the audience member again,
Hmm.
and so that's very, very it's thrilling, and I feel very thankful for that.
And now I'm just imagining like the awkward pause after they've done all the lines and they like kind of look like side eye and you're like, oh, yes, wonderful cut. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm basically like, you guys can stop yourself because I'll just be sitting there, and when I'm directing, I get like this close to the monitor, and and when a performance is captivating, I get closer and closer, and that happened a lot on this film.
I want to be inside this image.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I need to be like I'm in a movie theater and I'm seeing it on the big screen, and it much to the chagrin of everyone around me because no one else can see the monitor.
Hey, down in front.
Yeah, it's literally a running joke. There's so many behind the scenes photos of me with my nose just pressed right to the screen. So
Oh my God. Okay, now you have to send us those so we can like put this over this story here and just like cut to images of you just like right up in there.
yeah, for sure. There should be a Blu-ray feature too of all the times Mickey Keating cut everyone else out of the experience of making the movie.
It's just a montage. It's a love story. It's called Mickey and the Monitor.
Right, right, right. Yes, yes. Me and the monitor live together now. We're very happy. Uh,
Love that journey for you. I'm really happy for you guys. I got a good feeling about you kids.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh man. So this, I know that you said this was kind of inspired by your childhood. I grew up not anywhere near a town like this or ever going to a town like this, but I don't want to call them Goosebumps knockoffs, but it was kind of like a little bit of like R.L. Stein knockoffs. I read a lot of like horror books when I was a kid, and there were a lot of them that I really loved that took place in like seaside towns. And it was nothing like your story, but it was just like the concept of these towns that have a season and an off season, and like, oh, townies coming to town. And I was like, such a foreign cinematic, like, fantastical concept to me. And then you're like, yeah, I kind of went to towns like this and then made a movie, but made it real scary about it. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's funny because that's, growing up in Florida, it's like that's what you do. You just, when you want to skip school or something, you go and drive. We drove like an hour and a half to the beach because I was in Orlando, which is fairly landlocked and not very exciting. And so sometimes, like during winter break and things, you'd end up in these towns where it's totally desolate and it's inherently just very kind of creepy because especially the idea of like tourist traps and things that like capitalize off of, the Disney runoff that are empty when they should be filled with people is just a very unsettling feeling. So from a very early age, I was like, this should be something, that would be in a movie. And fortunately, I was able to convince a whole bunch of people to fly from Los Angeles to Florida, and and I subjected them to the elements. It was Florida is a really crazy place in a lot of ways, but also in weather, and we experienced it all.
nice. Where did you shoot this? Like, where in Florida?
It's a little town called New Smyrna Beach. It's basically like an hour away from Daytona. And so I had visited there a long time ago. So I was like, oh, it's this tiny town and no one's going to be there. And what I didn't realize in the stretch that in between visiting and then coming back, was that they had built up condos and that Canadian tourists come there during that time of year. And so what you don't see is all like the actual tourism industry going on while we were shooting around, right out of camera. There's like 1,000 people in every shot.
I love that. Well, would never guess. I was like, this is a creepy little town that you found or built or something. So
No, yeah, no, it's actually quite quaint, and I don't think another movie's been shot there. So now they're all going to be like, why did you do this to New Smyrna?
you're welcome.
Right. Yes. Yes.
So that concept of just being stranded is also terrifying to me. Like the concept of being like, okay, you can take a ferry in, but there's only like 2 ferries a day to get you out, or like at some point there's no more ferries. That's terrifying, like
Yeah.
inherently scary as shit.
Yeah. It's really, because I think everyone has that experience where it's like they have fun on the vacation, but it's time to go home, right?
Yep.
And just not being able to get out and being inconvenienced is a constant horror to me. So yes. Thank you. Yes, it's very exciting to have that set up.
I don't even like going somewhere sometimes like you said, it's like, okay, this is fun and relaxing for a couple days, but like if I don't have a car or access to certain things and then I start to freak out, I'm like, and like little towns where things close at like 8 or 9, I'm like, well, what if I get hungry at 10? So then I like even just like little anxieties about that. Like I don't have a car. I'm not free to just like go as I please. So like it starts to feel increasingly small, right? And something like an island and there's no ferry. That's like very, very horrifyingly small where I'm like, I don't like that at all.
100%. And you start to realize, I mean, even when we were shooting, everyone who lived in the town started to recognize, oh, you guys you people are with the movie crew. And they were like one night, me and Joe Swanberg went out to dinner, and the waiter was like, yeah, we have a Facebook page and we're all like keeping track of everything you guys are doing. And I was like, that is incredibly unsettling, and I wish I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, so now I'll really watch everything that I do because I know I'm being monitored by the real locals in this place.
Oh my gosh. That's one of those things where it can go one of two ways, right? You're like, what, it depends on what movie I'm in. Am I in
Right.
a horror movie and you guys are like some weird cult and you're gonna like kidnap the film crew? Or is this like a rom-com and like it's
Right.
like all fun and shiny and bright and that's you guys are just movie fans?
I'm always neurotic enough to believe that I'm in the horror film, so I was constantly checking over my shoulder.
I mean, that's where my brain goes to. I mean, this is my job as well. So I'm like, my brain is just always like, I'm in a horror movie. I'm not in the
Yes.
rom-com.
Yes. No. I'm never lucky enough to be in the rom-com.
But look I feel like that gives us like survival instinct, you know? I'm
For
like,
sure.
oh, my radar is always up. That's some red flags. And people are like,
For
no,
sure.
that's cute and sweet. I'm like, or red flag.
Yes, I was like, we cannot ever do any reshoots because we can't ever come back here because they'll be on to us.
Yeah.
Right.
Never return. Leave and never
Right.
return. There's also a big theme here is also kind of, I guess, maybe like a little bit like the sins of our ancestors kinds of things, or like how well can you really know somebody? And that's a very terrifying thing as well. I think we all kind of maybe grapple with that. And especially when it comes to like parents or grandparents, right? We have this concept of who they are, but really they're just humans and they have their own whole backstory and all the shit that we probably don't know about them. Maybe we don't ever want to know about it.
For sure, yeah, and just the decisions that they make that ultimately affect us. It's
Hmm.
like our generation, I feel like, is very much experiencing the real world repercussions of older generations
Thanks,
currently.
guys.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to the boomers. But I think what's so kind of unsettling is, I know people personally who have had whether it's parents or relatives who have died, and all of a sudden they've found things like one somebody I know, their grandfather died and they found that he had been writing his own Bible, and everyone was like, where did this come, what?
What?
And I was like, did you read the Bible?
Yeah,
Can I read the Bible?
right.
What's in it? But like, just these little things that you think that you know somebody, especially as intimate as family,
Hmm.
and the reality is you really don't know much about them. I think that's a very, very scary idea.
That's terrifying, especially because when it is family, that's like you're like, oh no, I know this person. This like I know
Right.
them like as much as intimately as I know myself. And then if you start
Sure.
finding out like real wild shit, you're like, what? And then you start to question everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And with, the thing that Jocelyn and I talked about a lot was, the setup of her having a movie star as a mother. It's like, one of the first things I said to Jocelyn was like, you in your mind, like, you don't know whether your mother's ever been real with you because she's
Mm-hmm.
always been performing. And then compounded by the fact that she starts telling you these insane things and you don't even get closure on any of it. And I
Yeah.
think I was like, that can really, really mess a person up. And so that was kind of like, the effort that we went into with, in mind while we were shooting this. I was
That
like, you're
adds yeah.
dealing with it.
Yes. That adds a really another fun layer to it. Like that's already a scary concept in general, but
Mhm.
the idea of like when are you on and when are you just you? And do you even know the difference? So it's
Sure,
like,
yeah.
like what?
Right, right. That's just like a very kind of funny thing. It's like that's what I love about actors. I'm always like, are you acting right now, or are you being straight with me? I think it's really kind of fascinating. So I thought that would be a super fun dynamic to play with.
That is cool. And that's true because I'm always like, you're so charming, but it's literally your job to be charming and lovable and so great. Are we friends right now or are you just like turning it on because it's your job to turn it on,
Right,
you
right.
know?
Totally, totally. I think it's really fascinating. That's why I just absolutely adore actors, and it's an art form that could I can't even wrap my head around. So I'm always in awe of them. So yeah, it's a fun dynamic.
I love it. I love it. Obviously, I guess like the most like obvious reference or like things that people would compare this to would be The Fog. Did that influence
Mhm.
you at all?
Sure. Well, I think that it's funny because this movie is like, I knew going into it, it's like there are unavoidable comparisons, right?
Hmm.
And so in the back of my mind, like, I love John Carpenter. I think that movie is immaculately shot. It really kind of gave me the bravery to use real mist and fog, which is an absolute nightmare to shoot with. It's horrible. But then, as we were editing and starting to clear the music, my music supervisor came to me and she was like, I have access to this catalog. Do you want to look through it? And I realized that a lot of the songs that play on the radio in the fog were there and able to be licensed. And so I was like, of course, I would be completely foolish to not do an even heavier handed reference. So
Hmm.
yeah, a lot of those songs are playing on the radio in my movie that are also playing in John Carpenter's.
Yes, I love that though because to me that's like the subtle kind of like, it's
Right.
like
Yeah.
it's cute.
And one of those songs, particularly, like, I've known forever because it was in the movie My Date with the President's Daughter, and they
Oh,
danced to
a
it.
classic. Yes.
A classic hit starring what's his name from Boy Meets World, and so I heard that when I was like little, and I was like, "What is that song?" I could never find it, and then when I was old enough to watch The Fog, I was like, "Oh my god, it's that song!"
Full circle, baby. So this is Mickey Keating's love letter, an homage to The Fog, and also My president's daughter. You
My
heard it
date
here
with the
first.
president's daughter, for
Exclusive.
sure.
My date with the president's daughter.
Yes.
The guy with the really good hair. I just remember he had like impeccable hair.
Right, right, right. Yes, and so God, I'm admitting this is an exclusive release.
This is
An
Fangoria exclusive. We got
right,
the
an
scoop.
exclusive reveal.
That's the like most fun reveal I've had. That's amazing. Thank you for that gift.
Right. Well, you're welcome.
Now we got to do like a double feature screening of The Fog and My Date with the President's Daughter.
Right, yeah, and everyone will be like, "What the hell is wrong with Mickey Keating?"
Like, how do these like? And I'm like, just wait. You'll
Just
understand it.
wait
You'll
till they're
understand.
dancing on the roof, and then a certain song plays. It's a through line from that to off season. You will see it.
And then you just do a real like startup, but like a real obscure series of like double features. It's like
Yes.
find the through line. Oh, okay, there it is. All right.
That's fun for me. I would definitely sit down for that because it's like when you see many movies that are exact comparisons, you want to shake things up a little bit.
Exactly. Throw a little My Date with the President's Daughter in there every like once in a while for a little pizzazz. I'm here for it. I grew up on that shit too. I'm like, I love it. Yeah, absolutely. That's like that perfectly encapsulates probably like both sides of like my personality. Like what do you watch when you're a kid? The Fog and My Date with the President's Daughter.
Right,
That kind
right,
of just
exactly.
like
You
to
gotta
make
have,
it fully formed.
you gotta
Well-rounded.
mix it up sometimes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
you
was,
gotta watch all different genres, they're
yeah.
all fun.
It wasn't all horror all the time. You got to expand your cinematic knowledge.
Yes, 100%.
Oh man. Is there anything else you would like to share with us about the making of this? Anything fun that happened to you guys?
So yeah, I think the big thing that I always think about, I always, have like what if panics. And we wrapped this movie like 3 weeks before the pandemic. And so really like there was a conversation in pre-production where it was like, well, what if we just like, move it a month, for some reason. I don't know why. It's just like, I think when you start marching towards the start date of a movie, everyone's like, oh my God, this is really happening.
Yeah.
But if we had done that, the movie would be half finished, which is really, really scary to me. And then, yeah, I mean, it was kind of like, it's funny. Most of everything that you see like weather-wise is practical, which is a nightmare. And so I will say, if you're planning on shooting a movie in Florida, just get ready because you will not know what hits you. There was one day we were shooting with Richard Brake, and he comes to me, and it was freezing. You'd think Florida, it's like, all right, it's fine. He comes to me, and he's like, I shot in Iceland on Game of Thrones, and I have never been so cold as I
Oh
am
my
in
God.
Florida right now. And
What?
I'm so sorry, Richard, please.
Like that's not what I equate Florida with. You know what I mean?
Right,
I'm like, I don't need a jacket. I just need like a Hawaiian shirt. I'm good to go.
yeah, that's what I thought. And he's from England, and I was like, he was like, I never in a million years would have anticipated this weather. And so I think everyone was really. And then the next day it was 85 degrees, and everyone got eaten alive by mosquitoes. So
Oh my God.
Florida's a crazy place in all ways.
So you really put everyone through it then, is what you're
I
saying.
did, yes. And I apologized. I was like, I'm so sorry, because it's like in my mind, especially with indie films, it's like every time I see Los Angeles or Los Angeles Beach in an indie film, I'm just like, ugh. It's like, and maybe it's because I live here, but I'm like, it's just too easy. And so what I do is I, make everybody go to crazy places, and they all hopefully have an experience, positive or negative. I don't know.
That's a great pitch,
I was
though.
like,
You're like, yeah.
yeah, I'm like, I have to be energetic because I can't make it seem like I'm absolutely freezing to death right now.
That's how it is, though. You got to set the mood from the top down. You know what I mean? You're like, guys, we're having a great. You're like a camp counselor, essentially, on
Right,
crack. Like, we're having a
absolutely
great time. Everyone's so fun.
Right.
Look at this, guys.
Totally. And I'm having fun, guys. Why isn't everyone else? And so by the time the movie's done, I'm like just turn into like this husk of a human being, and then I'm like retreat into this dark room, and me and my editor Valerie just like I like lay on the couch and she edits the movie.
that's a great process though. You know, you're the like crazy camp counselor, and then you go and you just have to like recover for a month in a dark cave, and
Right,
then you
I'm a
do it all
shell
over again.
of a human being, and it's really I start to really think about my life during that time.
What's up with Mickey? Oh no, it's fine. He's just in his husk phase. He just
Right,
wrapped on
right,
film. He's good.
right.
Give
I'm
him a month.
I will resurge. I will come out of this at some point. It's happened, every movie there's always like a wave of like total exhaustion, and this one particularly, like I don't think I got out of bed for like, a week afterwards.
Yeah. And then went into COVID times like shortly after. So that's like a lot of things compiling, right?
Right. I was like, the one positive thing, if there is anything positive about this experience, which, I think the world can agree generally sucked. And I'm kind of, I was having a conversation. I was like, I'm kind of done experiencing these unprecedented world events. I think I can take a beat for a second and just,
Yeah.
go back to how it was during the 80s. But it was kind of a race to nowhere. We were like, there's no point in trying to rush this to get into a film festival or show it to distributor because there might not be movie theaters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we took as long as we wanted to edit it, and we didn't have to show it to anybody or any of the financiers until it was like good and finished. So pretty much by the time the producers and the financiers saw the movie was done. So, I mean, that was a huge luxury because, it's like when you start screening the movie for people, I brace myself. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
here it goes. Here's the real, now the real work begins. But yeah, that was great. That was the only nice thing to come out of COVID.
The only nice thing.
Right.
Have you gotten to watch this with an audience at all?
Yes. So fortunately, it played later in the year. It played at Telluride Horror Show, which, if you haven't been to Telluride Horror Show, it is one of the best film festivals ever. It's beautiful up there, and they're so enthusiastic. So they played it. We got a big theater screen, and the audience was packed, and it was really, really fun to listen to the gasps. And then Joe Swanberg did a secret screening of it in Chicago. So Valerie, my editor, and we flew to Chicago, and no one knew what movie they were seeing, and it was at a beautiful theater. So a couple times, but I shot this movie to be my theater movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was like, this is the big one. We're shooting on anamorphic lenses, but I get it, and I understand. It's like the world is bigger than me and my films, and so I'm just happy that people will be able to enjoy it in some way or another.
I'm happy that people will be able to enjoy it, but inevitably there will also now be more screenings as people find their way to this movie and find a love for it, and then people are going to now retroactively throw screenings for this where people can go and watch it. Because I need to watch it on a big screen. I watched it at home as well, so.
Please, I hope so. I mean, that would be great. And we're going to have a rollout of theater lists in the next day or something. But, I completely understand if people still are testing the waters about whether they want to go to theaters or not.
Yes.
But the only thing I beg of anybody watching this is, like, please watch it with the lights off, and please, turn it up as loud as you possibly can, because, that's how it should be enjoyed. There are so many times where I'm like, I know someone's watching this during the day, and their windows are just like bouncing light off their computer screen, and it hurts me a little bit.
I'm sorry. I'll apologize now. I had my volume just up to like 3, and I had my windows just blasting wide open. No, I would never do that. I would never.
As long as you're not watching it on your phone. Oh, you're not watching it on your phone.
I was watching it on a phone, but for a phone that's like from like the early 2000s for some reason.
Okay.
That's like how I like to screen movies.
As long as it's okay. All right, I'll settle for that, or an airplane, whatever. I surrender. I surrender to streaming. It's a futile task.
I made it as cinematic as I possibly could in my living room. I was like, crank it all the way up.
Right.
My neighbors probably all hate me. My dog is not a fan of horror movies anymore. Like, just like jump scares and the music cue. She'll just like look at me, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
I appreciate that, and I'm sorry to your dog, but
I will let her know.
That's just it's funny because my neighbors too. We when we edit, it's like repetition of screaming, and I really like, and they must think I'm a serial killer or something. So Yeah, I'm very nice to them. So, but that that's what a
That's
serial.
even more serious.
Yeah.
He was pretty quiet. He was pretty nice whenever we saw him. That's like the epitome of a serial killer, dude.
Exactly. Yes. And now I have body parts in my refrigerator. So, you're sorry, neighbors.
You're
It
on
really.
all the lists. You are on all the watch lists now.
Great. Wonderful. That increases my paranoia.
Oh no. No one's paying attention. You're fine. You're good.
Right. Except my neighbor who's like listening to the.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, we play these same scenes over and over and over. Nobody can scream the same way that many times. So that's kind of being the nice experience. That's what I tell myself.
Yeah. Listen, serial killer logic is that you would not be able to
Right.
replicate this exactly every single time.
Totally. 100%.
And believe me,
That
I've tried.
right.
All right, that'll
Absolutely.
be your saving grace. They're like, you know what? Maybe he's editing something.
He wears too many Hawaiian shirts to be a serial killer. Nobody's that depraved.
Please, your next movie needs to be have a serial killer who wears a lot of Hawaiian shirts. I'm
I
into
think
that.
that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Totally.
and then I could cosplay it or be it for Halloween or something. So that's great.
That's my total dream. The only thing I like to tell all the actors, I'm like, all I want is for you to wear costumes that either people can draw pretty easily or dress up for Halloween. So that's a dream come true to me.
That's a solid goal. I love that.
It's a real ambition, and so that's what I gun for. So every movie, it's like I really try to I have these like costumes that people can replicate in
Yes.
some way or another.
Here for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Next week, my whole feed, my Instagram, is just gonna be me in different off-season costumes.
That would be sick as hell. I would love that. I would live for that. That would
All
be
right.
great.
I'll see what I can do. I gotta go rummage through my closet now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Jeremy Gardner. I feel like is the tough one to pull off because he's got such a crazy beard and such wild hair. So I would be very impressed.
All right, well that's the one I gotta do. I'm like, well, shit, you just like gave me my challenge, and I'm like, okay, I gotta figure that one out, I guess.
And the funny thing, he showed up like that to set. He's like, "Should I cut my beard at all?" I was like, "No, absolutely not."
Absolutely, leave the beard, leave it. Awesome. All right, I'm so glad that we got to hang out and chat. I'm really excited for people to check out Off Season. March 11th is the date. Get your Hawaiian shirts ready.
Yes, thank you. This was great. This was a fantastic time. I really appreciate it.
Amazing. Also bring your parkas because apparently Florida's fucking cold. So get your
Right?
Hawaiian
Yeah,
shirts
you
and your
never know,
parkas.
and your bug spray, and
Oh, yes.
your rain jacket. It's crazy.
You're about to get eaten alive.